So picture two different fathers.
Okay, I'm picturing them.
One of them is brilliant in the traditional sense. Like he holds a PhD, he is highly respected in his field, and he just works incredibly hard his entire life.
Right. He followed all the standard rules.
Exactly. But here's the thing. He constantly struggles with money and ultimately passes away, leaving behind like a literal pile of unpaid bills.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's rough.
And then you have the other father. He drops out of school in the 8th grade. He doesn't have a single fancy degree to his name, but he goes on to become one of the wealthiest men in his entire state, leaving this massive empire to his family.
It almost sounds like a riddle, honestly.
Right.
But it's really the foundational reality of how wealth actually works. I mean, we're so conditioned to believe that traditional education is this guaranteed mathematical formula, you know?
Like you put in the grades, you get the degree, and then financial stability just automatically outputs on the other side.
Exactly. But that's just not how it works.
Which brings us to today. Welcome to this deep dive, everyone. Today we are exploring a massive disruption to that exact traditional formula.
We really are.
We're unpacking the core philosophy of Robert Kiyosaki's legendary book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And the goal today isn't just to, talk about money.
No, it goes way deeper than that.
Yeah. We're going to break down why the classroom completely fails to teach us how money functions in the real world, especially for young professionals who are just entering the workforce and feeling that academic pressure.
Right, because that shift in mindset is what helps you break out of that exhausting, endless cycle of just working to pay the bills.
And those two fathers I mentioned, they're the perfect lens for this.
Yeah.
Because Kiyosaki actually grew up observing both of them.
Yeah, the highly educated, struggling man was his actual biological father, his poor dad.
And the wealthy 8th grade dropout was his friend Mike's father.
Exactly, the rich dad. And observing them side by side proved to him that financial literacy is an entirely separate language from, academic literacy.
Because the poor dad firmly believed in the system. Go to school, get a safe job, rely on a steady paycheck, and just climb the corporate ladder.
But the rich dad looked at that exact same ladder and just saw a trap. He called it the rat race.
The rat race. I feel like everyone knows that term, but why did he see it as a trap specifically?
Well, to understand that, you have to look at the psychological loop that drives most people, especially young adults, right out of college. Think of a donkey pulling a cart.
Okay, a donkey pulling a cart.
The owner dangles a carrot on a stick just in front of the donkey's nose. So the donkey keeps walking, pulling this incredibly heavy cart, entirely focused on taking a bite of that carrot.
But the stick is attached to the cart.
Right, so the donkey can walk for miles and miles and never actually catch the prize.
Wow, that is a brutally vivid image.
It really is. And the carrot, in this case, is the paycheck.
Right.
And the engine driving that cart is fueled by two incredibly powerful human emotions, which are fear and desire.
Fear and desire. Make that make sense for me.
So when you wake up, the fear of not having money, like the fear of missing rent, of failing, of just living in poverty that pushes you out the door to go to your job.
Yeah, the classic Sunday scaries.
Exactly. And then the paycheck hits your bank account on Friday. The fear subsides for a minute and desire completely takes over.
Instantly. I mean, you start thinking about what that money can buy. A nicer apartment, maybe a better car, a vacation to decompress from the stress.
You start wanting the rewards of your labor, which is natural, so you spend the money. And because you spent it, your bank account drops. And what happens? The fear of poverty returns.
So you go right back to work on Monday.
Yep.
But wait, even if you get a promotion, even if you double your salary,
Yeah.
you're saying that loop doesn't break.
Oh, it usually gets much worse. As people's income goes up, their expenses almost always go up right alongside it.
Oh, lifestyle creep.
Exactly. You make more, so you finance a bigger house, you take on premium car payments, you buy more expensive clothes. You're running twice as fast, but you are still just the donkey chasing the carrot.
So how on earth do you snap the stick? Because Kiyosaki's rich dad actually forced him to learn this lesson as a kid in a very extreme way, didn't he?
He really did.
Yeah, he made young Robert work at his convenience store, dusting cans and stocking shelves for absolutely $0 an hour.
He completely removed the carrot.
Right. But if I'm listening to this right now, especially as a young professional, I'm thinking, hold on, I have rent due next week. I have groceries to buy.
Oh, for sure.
If I tell my boss I want to work for free to quote-unquote build character, I'm going to be evicted. So how does someone actually apply this concept without ruining their life.
Well, it's important to look at why the rich dad did it, rather than just copying the literal action.
Okay.
By removing the paycheck, he removed Robert's tunnel vision.
Right.
Because when you are entirely dependent on a paycheck, your brain just stops looking for other ways to generate value.
You just look at the clock, waiting for your shift to end.
Exactly. But when Robert realized absolutely no money was coming from his boss, his brain was forced into high gear. He had to figure out how to generate money from his environment.
Which leads to the comic book story.
Yeah.
This is one of my favorite parts.
It's so good.
So while he's working for free, Robert notices the store clerk throwing away boxes of unsold comic books because the distributor would come by, rip off the top half of the cover for a credit, and leave the rest of the book to be literally thrown in the trash.
And a normal employee who is just blinded by the comfort of a paycheck just throws the comics away and goes right back to dusting cans.
Right. But Robert's mind was open. He approached the distributor and struck a deal to keep the torn comics, promising he wouldn't sell them.
Smart.
Yeah, and instead, he took them to his friend's basement and opened a rental library for all the neighborhood kids.
He charged them, what, 10 cents for 2 hours?
Yeah, 10 cents for 2 hours of unlimited reading.
And here's the genius part of that whole operation. He didn't sit there and run the library himself.
Oh yeah, he hired his friend's sister.
Yep, for $1 a week to check the kids in and make sure they didn't steal anything. So in a matter of weeks, he was generating $9.50 a week in completely passive income.
That's wild. He wasn't even in the room, and his system was making money.
He stopped working for money and forced money to work for him. It's complete perspective shift. You stop asking, how do I get a 5% raise? And you start asking, what hidden value is flowing through my environment that I can capture and systemize?
That makes total sense. But capturing that value brings up the next major hurdle, right?
Yep.
Once you figure out how to bring money in, you have to figure out how to actually keep it.
And this is where the traditional educational system completely abandons us.
Totally.
Yeah.
There is a terrifying historical example of this from 1923 that the book brings up.
The Edgewater Beach Hotel meeting.
Yes. So, some of the most powerful and wealthiest businessmen in the world gathered at this hotel in Chicago.
Okay.
We are talking about the president of the largest independent steel company, the president of the largest gas company, massive Wall Street speculators.
Literal titans of global industry.
But 25 years after that meeting, the reality of their lives was shocking. Several of them had died completely broke. A few had died by suicide.
Yeah.
Others ended up in prison or had completely lost their minds. Like, how does someone reach the absolute pinnacle of wealth and then lose every single penny?
Because making money and keeping money require two entirely different skill sets. I mean, you see this today with professional athletes or lottery winners.
Oh, all the time.
They sign a multi-million-dollar contract, and then 3 years after they retire, they are totally bankrupt. They focused everything on making the money, but they built it on a terrible foundation.
It's like trying to fill a bathtub without putting the drain plug in.
Exactly.
You can turn the faucet on full blast, like you can secure a massive high-paying salary, but if you don't plug the drain, the water just pours out as fast as it comes in. You still end up with an empty tub.
And Kiyosaki uses a construction analogy for this that I love. He says traditional schooling gives you what amounts to a 6-inch concrete slab of financial knowledge.
Okay, a 6-inch slab.
Right. And that slab is perfectly fine if you just want to build a small, quiet, suburban house. But if you want to build the Empire State Building, if you want true generational wealth and freedom, you cannot build a skyscraper on a 6-inch slab.
It would completely collapse under its own weight.
Which is exactly what happened to those men in 1923.
Yeah.
You have to dig a massive, deep foundation of financial literacy.
So let's pour that foundation right now for the listeners. Kiyosaki emphasizes the KISS principle, keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah.
What is the fundamental ground level rule of financial literacy that we are all apparently missing?
It literally just comes down to understanding the true definition of two words, asset and liability. The rule is simple. You must know the difference between an asset and a liability, and you must spend your entire life buying assets.
Okay, I feel like every accountant listening just perked up.
Yeah.
But Kiyosaki's definitions are notoriously different from a college textbook, right? Yeah.
Very different. In traditional accounting, things get incredibly complex with depreciation schedules and abstract values. But the rich dad's definition is purely based on cash flow.
Keep it simple.
Right. An asset is anything that puts money into your pocket, regardless of whether you are actively working.
Mm-hmm.
A liability is anything that takes money out of your pocket.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
So if it feeds you, it's an asset. If it eats it's a liability.
That is the perfect way to look at it. The poor really only have daily living expenses, but the middle class, they get caught in this trap. They buy liabilities, but they have been convinced by society that they are actually buying assets.
While the rich just focus almost exclusively on buying true assets.
Exactly.
Okay, let's talk about that middle class trap, because this is where the philosophy gets incredibly controversial.
Oh yeah, people get mad about this one.
If you ask almost any young adult what their ultimate financial goal is, they will say buying a house. It is the American dream. It's the ultimate symbol that you have made it. But the book argues that your primary residence is actually a liability.
And people get very defensive when they hear that. I mean, the poor dad representing the traditional societal view believed his home was his greatest investment. But you have to look at the actual cash flow.
Right.
When you buy a house to live in, what happens to your bank account every single month?
Well, money leaves. You have the mortgage payment, obviously. But then there are property taxes, homeowner's insurance, the water heater breaking, putting on a new roof.
It never stops.
It is constantly taking money out of your pocket.
Exactly. Now, this does not mean you shouldn't own a home. The lesson isn't to go live in a tent.
Right. He's not saying don't buy a house.
No, the lesson is about being honest with yourself. Don't buy a larger house than you actually need and fool yourself into calling it an asset. It is a liability that drains your cash flow. If you want a bigger house, a wealthy mindset dictates that you first buy an asset that generates enough cash flow to pay for the liability of the house.
Man, that makes me think of Ray Kroc.
Oh, the McDonald's story.
Yes. There's this incredible story about him from 1947. He had just started turning McDonald's into a national phenomenon. And he was speaking to an MBA class at the University of Texas.
Right.
And afterward, they all went out for beers. Kroc just casually asked the students, "Who can tell me what business I'm in?"
And the students laughed, assuming he was totally joking. They were like, Ray, everyone knows you're in the hamburger business.
And Kroc tells them they are completely wrong. He says, "My business is not hamburgers. My business is real estate."
It's honestly one of the greatest business pivots in history.
Seriously.
Yeah.
He realized that selling a 15-cent burger wasn't going to make him incredibly wealthy. So McDonald's started buying the physical land underneath every single franchise location.
Yep.
If you want to open the McDonald's, you have to lease the land from the McDonald's Corporation. The hamburgers are essentially just the bait used to ensure the tenant can pay the rent on the real estate.
Because Kroc understood the rich dad's golden rule, which is mind your own business.
Okay, let's clarify that, because
Yeah.
mind your own business usually means, leave me alone.
Right.
Are we supposed to interpret this as quit your day job tomorrow and start buying commercial real estate? Because for a young professional with student loans, that sounds like a fast track to bankruptcy.
No, definitely not. And that is a critical distinction to make. Minding your own business does not mean starting a company.
Okay.
It means understanding the vast difference between your profession and your business. So your profession might be a software engineer or a nurse or a mechanic.
Right.
That is what you do for 40 hours a week to generate your baseline income and pay your daily bills. But your business is your asset column.
Okay, so your profession funds your life, but your business, your asset column, funds your eventual freedom.
Well put. I mean, most people spend their entire lives minding everyone else's business. They work tirelessly to make the company owners rich, they pay massive taxes to fund the government's business, and they pay decades of mortgage interest to fund the bank's business.
Wow. Yeah.
To escape the rat race, you have to start minding your own. You keep your day job, but you take your excess income, and you obsessively buy true assets, stocks, bonds, intellectual property, or income-producing real estate. You treat every single dollar you save like an employee whose only job is to go out and recruit more dollars.
But building that asset column can feel impossible when you're starting with very little. It requires you to see opportunities that the average person just walks right past.
Yeah, the philosophy calls this the ability to invent money.
Inventing money sounds like a magic trick, honestly.
It does, but it is really just applied financial intelligence. It's the ability to see a solution where everyone else only sees a problem.
And there is a perfect example of this from the early 1990s. The economy in Phoenix, Arizona was completely crashing. People were terrified, houses were foreclosing left and right.
And the standard advice at the time was to hoard your cash and just hide.
But Robert saw an opportunity. He found a house valued at $100,000 that a bank was desperate to offload. They were practically giving it away for $20,000.
A classic fire sale in a down market.
Exactly. So he buys the house for $20,000. But instead of dealing with the headache of, renting it out and being a landlord, he immediately puts an ad in the local paper.
This is the brilliant part.
He offers this $100,000 house for $60,000, and he advertises no bank qualifying needed.
Wow.
The phone rings off the hook. He finds a buyer, takes a small down payment to cover his initial costs, and creates a $40,000 promissory note.
Okay, let's break down the mechanics of what a promissory note actually is, because this is where the magic really happens.
Yeah, explain that.
A promissory note is essentially a legally binding IOU. By offering seller financing, Robert effectively became the bank for the new buyer.
So instead of the buyer getting a mortgage from, like, Wells Fargo, they are paying their monthly mortgage directly to Robert.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And because Robert bought it for $20 and sold it for $60 on paper, he just created $40,000 of value out of thin air.
It's incredible.
And here is the kicker. Because that $40,000 is locked up in a debt instrument, meaning the buyer is paying him over time with interest, it doesn't get taxed the same way a $40,000 bonus at your day job would. In just a few hours of arranging paperwork, he invented a cash-flowing asset that puts money in his pocket every single month.
That is genuinely mind-blowing. But it begs the question, if it's just paperwork and math, why doesn't everyone do this?
Because fear holds people back far more than a lack of knowledge. We are absolutely paralyzed by the fear of looking foolish or making a mistake. Think about Alexander Graham Bell.
The telephone guy?
Right. He invented the telephone, but the sheer weight of running the business terrified him. He actually went to Western Union and offered to sell his patent, the rights to the telephone, for just $100,000.
And the president of Western Union turned him down.
Right. He laughed at him. He literally thought the telephone was a useless toy. So Bell was forced to overcome his fear, keep the patent, and eventually, she built AT&T. The fear of stepping outside the norm, of taking a calculated risk, is what keeps us trapped in that rat race.
And that fear can also mutate into anger when people are confronted with the truth.
Oh, absolutely.
I have to ask you about this anecdote in the book about a woman playing Kiyosaki's cash flow board game.
Oh, the boat lady.
Yes. So it's a game designed to simulate all these real-world financial principles. And this woman is playing, and she draws a card that says she, quote-unquote, won a luxury boat.
Right.
And she got absolutely furious. She demanded her money back for the board game, yelling that the boat was going to ruin her finances because of the docking fees, the insurance, and the maintenance. Why do people get so angry at the very concepts that could save them?
Well, she got angry because the game shattered her illusion. I mean, society told her that a luxury boat is a reward. It's a symbol of wealth. But in the safety of the game, she looked at her balance sheet and realized the boat was a financial death sentence.
It was just a massive liability eating her cash.
Exactly. To avoid those traps and successfully invent money, you really have to develop 3 specific high-level skills.
Okay, let's lay those out for the listeners.
Number 1 is the ability to find an opportunity that everyone else missed. You have to learn to see with your mind, not just your eyes.
Okay, what's number 2?
Number 2 is the skill to raise capital without relying solely on a bank. Just like the Arizona house, Robert used the buyer's down payment and a promissory note. He didn't just ask a bank for a loan.
Right.
And number 3 is the wisdom to organize people who are smarter than you. Wealthy people hire brilliant accountants, shrewd lawyers, and expert brokers to advise them.
But if you want to develop those 3 skills, you cannot follow the traditional advice of picking one narrow major in college and hyper-specializing for the rest of your life.
No, you can't. Which brings us to the final and perhaps most important shift in mindset for anyone listening, especially students and young professionals. You must work to learn, not just to earn.
And there was a great story about a journalist who interviewed Kiyosaki.
I love this one.
She was an incredibly talented writer, and she told him her ultimate dream was to be a best-selling author. But she was really struggling to make a living, like her books just weren't selling. So Robert gave her a piece of advice. He said, go take a sales training class.
And she took extreme offense to that.
She felt completely insulted. She viewed herself as a pure artist, an intellectual. She felt that sales was like a sleazy beneath her profession.
Yeah.
But she completely missed the reality. Her amazing writing talent was practically useless if she didn't know how to sell her ideas to a publisher or market her books to the public. Like, she was a great writer,
Yeah.
but a terrible business person.
And this really highlights the danger of what the traditional system rewards, because schools reward hyperspecialization. They want you to be the absolute best at one incredibly narrow thing.
Right.
Think of a doctor who spends 15 years studying to focus entirely on pediatrics. That is wonderful for the medical field, obviously, but it is terrible for building personal wealth, because if the hospital closes or if policies change, that doctor only has one way to make money.
It's the velvet rut. You get paid just enough not to quit, but your skills become so specialized that they aren't transferable. You become utterly dependent on your employer.
And the rich dad's approach was the exact opposite. You need to know a little about a lot of things.
It's like we're told to be a highly precise laser beam, but true financial independence requires you to be a Swiss Army knife.
That's a great way to put it.
And Kiyosaki actually lived this. After college, he joined the Marine Corps, not because he wanted a military career, but specifically to learn leadership and how to manage troops in high-stress environments. Then when he got out, he went to work for Xerox. And he was terrified of selling. He hated the idea of rejection, but he took the job anyway, specifically to force himself to learn sales.
Because that is the ultimate secret. Don't base your career choices solely on who offers the highest starting salary.
Right.
When you are young, take jobs specifically for the skills they will teach you. Take a job in marketing, learn accounting, figure out team management. The skills you acquire are infinitely more valuable than the paycheck.
Absolutely.
You can afford to be broke in your 20s or 30s while you build your mental toolbox, because those skills will pay off exponentially in your asset column later in life.
Okay, let's bring all of these threads together. Escaping the rat race isn't about hoping for a 10% raise. It's about a fundamental rewiring of how you view the world.
It really is.
It's knowing, deep down, the mathematical difference between an asset that feeds your freedom and a liability that eats your future.
It's having the discipline to mind your own business, to relentlessly build your asset column on the side, even while you are dedicating 40 hours a week to your day job.
And it's having the courage to see opportunities where others only see panic, like that fire sale house in Arizona.
Boy.
And most importantly, it's being willing to humble yourself, to constantly learn new skills, even if it means taking a temporary pay cut. Because ultimately, the greatest asset you will ever possess isn't a piece of real estate, and it isn't a stock portfolio. It is your own mind.
Because financial intelligence is the true creator of wealth. Your mind is the only asset that can consistently take nothing and turn it into something.
Exactly. So to leave you with something to chew on, think back to that straight ladder of traditional education we talked about at the beginning.
The one we're all told to climb.
Right. If you stepped off that ladder today, like if your boss called and said your job was eliminated and your paycheck stopped right now, how long could you survive purely on the cash flow generated by your actual assets?
That is a tough question to answer.
It is. Look around your life right now. Look at your apartment, your car, your subscriptions. What is something you proudly call an asset that is actually just a sneaky liability, slowly draining the foundation you're trying to build?
Something to really think about.
We hope this deep dive gave you a new lens to look through. Thanks for spending some time with us. Keep questioning the traditional rules, and be sure to like, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed the conversation. We will catch you next time.